Commander Jake Morrison stared at the black screen in front of him. The stars looked the same as always, tiny white dots scattered across the darkness of space. He had been flying patrol missions for 12 years, and nothing ever happened out here. The edge of human space was quiet and empty. Another boring day, he said to himself, leaning back in his command chair aboard the UES Defender. The ship was not big, just a patrol vessel with a crew of 40 people. They spent most of their time checking on mining stations and making sure everything was working properly. Captain Zara Knox walked up to his chair. She was the ship's communication officer and had been with Morrison for 3 years. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange on the long-range sensors," she said, pointing to her screen. Morrison looked at the display. There was a small dot moving toward them, but it was not like any ship he had ever seen before. "What is it, Knox?" "I don't know, sir. It's not in our database. The shape is all wrong for a human ship. It looks more like a living thing than a machine." Lieutenant Ben Carter turned around from his position at the weapons station. He was young, only 25, but he was good at his job. "Should we go to alert status, Commander?" Morrison thought for a moment. First contact protocols were clear. If they met aliens, they should try to talk first and fight only if they had to. "Not yet, Carter. Knox, try to contact them. Use the standard first contact message." Knox pressed some buttons on her panel. "This is the Earthship UES Defender. We come in peace. Please respond." She waited, then repeated the message in different languages. Still nothing. The alien ship kept getting closer. Now they could see it better on the main screen. It was dark green and covered with what looked like armor plates. It had no windows that they could see, and it moved in a way that seemed too smooth for a normal ship. "Sir, it's not responding to any of our signals," Knox reported. "But I am picking up some kind of transmission from inside their ship. It sounds like voices, but I can't understand the language." Morrison stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. "Put it on speaker." Strange sounds filled the bridge. The voices were deep and harsh, nothing like human speech. There were clicking noises and what sounded like growling. Carter looked nervous, and Knox was recording everything. "They don't sound very friendly," Carter said quietly. The alien ship was now close enough that they could see details on its surface. There were weapon ports along the sides, and the front of the ship came to a sharp point like a spear. Morrison had seen enough warships to know what this was. "That's a military vessel," he said to his crew. "Everyone stay calm but be ready for anything." Knox tried the communication again. "Unknown ship, this is Commander Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We want to talk with you. Please respond." This time something happened. The alien ship sent a signal back, but it was not words. Instead, their computers started showing pictures on the screen. The images were rough, but Morrison could understand what they meant. The first picture showed the alien ship. The second showed the human ship. The third showed the alien ship destroying the human ship with weapons fire. The message was clear. "They're threatening us," Knox said, her voice tight with fear. Morrison felt his heart speed up, but he kept his voice calm. "Carter, bring weapons online, but don't target them yet. Knox, send a message back. Show them that we don't want to fight." Knox worked quickly, sending pictures that showed both ships flying away from each other in peace. But the aliens sent back the same message as before. The alien ship destroying the human ship. "Sir, their weapons are powering up," Carter reported. "I'm reading energy levels that could punch right through our shields." Morrison made a decision that would change everything. "All hands, this is the commander. Go to battle stations immediately. This is not a drill." Alarms started ringing throughout the ship. The bridge lights changed to red and everyone moved faster. Morrison had hoped this day would never come, but humanity's first meeting with aliens was about to become a fight. The alien ship moved closer, and now Morrison could see more details. There were symbols on the hull that looked like claw marks. The ship was bigger than the Defender and looked much more dangerous. "Knox, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we have made contact with hostile aliens. Send them everything we have recorded." "Already doing it, sir," Knox replied, her fingers moving quickly over her controls. The alien ship suddenly stopped moving toward them, For a moment, Morrison thought they might be reconsidering their attack. Then the ship turned slightly, showing them its weapon ports. "Incoming fire," Carter shouted. Bright green energy beams shot out from the alien ship. The first few missed, lighting up the space around the defender with deadly light. Then one hit their shields and the whole ship shook. "Shields down to 60%, Carter reported. "Sir, we need to return fire or get out of here." Morrison gripped his chair as another blast hit them. "Fire back, Carter! All weapons!" The defenders' weapons were much smaller than the alien ships, but they were still deadly. Blue energy beams shot toward the alien vessel, hitting its armor and causing small explosions. But the alien ship barely seemed to notice. "Our weapons are not doing much damage," Carter said. "Their armor is too thick." Another blast from the alien ship hit them directly. This time the lights went out for a second before the backup power came on. Smoke started filling the bridge. "Shields down to 20%, Carter shouted over the noise of alarms. Morrison knew they could not win this fight. The alien ship was too strong and they were too far from help. But they had done their job. Earth would know that hostile aliens existed. "Knox, did our message get through to Earth?" "Yes, sir. Full transmission sent, including all sensor data about their ship." Another blast hit them, and this time Morrison felt the ship starting to break apart. Pieces of metal flew across the bridge, and he could hear the sound of air escaping through holes in the hull. "All hands abandon ship," Morrison ordered. "Get to the escape pods now." But even as his crew prepared to leave the dying ship, Morrison stayed on the bridge. He watched the alien ship on his screen and tried to understand what kind of enemy humanity now faced. The alien ship stopped firing and moved closer to the wreckage of the defender. Morrison could see shapes moving behind the dark green armor. The aliens were looking at what they had done. In the last few seconds before the defender's power failed completely, Morrison saw something that gave him hope. The alien ship was scanning the wreckage, but it was also moving away quickly. They seemed to be in a hurry to leave. Maybe they were not as confident as they appeared to be. Maybe they were scouts sent ahead to test human defenses. If that was true, then they would report back to their leaders about what they had found. Morrison smiled grimly as the power went out and his screen went dark. The aliens had won this battle, but they had no idea what they had just started. They thought they had destroyed a simple patrol ship from a weak species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Inside the alien ship, War Prime Kethvar looked at the floating pieces of the human vessel. The fight had been easy, just as his commanders had predicted. The humans had weak weapons and thin armor. Their ship had been destroyed in minutes. He made his report to the fleet commanders waiting at the edge of this system. "The humans are as weak as we expected. Their ships break easily and their weapons cannot hurt us. This will be a simple conquest." But Kethvar did not know that the human ship had sent detailed information about his vessel back to Earth. He did not know that even now, human scientists were studying his ship's design and learning about his weapons. Most importantly, he did not know that humanity had been preparing for this day for a very long time. Admiral Lisa Harper stood in the deep command center beneath the Pentagon, watching the data stream in from the destroyed patrol ship. The images of the alien vessel filled the large screens around the room, and she could see the concern on every face in the room. "How many people made it off the Defender?" she asked Colonel Ryan Brooks, who was standing at the communication station. 32 survivors, Admiral. Commander Morrison is among them. They were picked up by a cargo ship about 6 hours ago." Harper nodded. Morrison was a good officer, and his crew had done their duty. The information they had sent back would save countless lives, but now the real work had to begin. "Brooks, activate Protocol 7 immediately. Send the code to every base, every station, every ship in the system." Brooks pressed a series of buttons on his panel. "Code sent, Admiral. All units are responding." Harper walked to the center of the room where a huge display showed the entire solar system. Right now it looked almost empty except for Earth and a few space stations. But that was about to change. President Martin Cole appeared on the main screen. He looked tired, but his voice was strong. "Admiral Harper, the alien attack has been confirmed by 3 separate sources. I am authorizing the full activation of our defense network. Whatever it takes. Understood, Mr. President. We are already beginning the process. The President's image disappeared and Harper turned to her staff. Gentlemen, ladies, this is what we have been preparing for. Time to show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of. On Mars, General Patricia Wells received the activation code in her underground command center. She had been waiting for this day for 10 years, ever since she had been put in charge of the Red Planet Defense Corps. All units, this is command. Begin Operation Rising Sun immediately. I repeat, Operation Rising Sun is now active. Across Mars, hidden doors started opening in the red sand. What looked like empty desert was actually the roof of huge underground bases. Thousands of soldiers began moving to their positions, and hundreds of ships prepared for launch. Major Chris Murphy was at Mars Base Alpha when the alert came in. He had 300,000 troops under his command, all trained for space combat. They had been practicing in secret for years, using underground training facilities that no one from Earth had ever seen. Sir, all units are ready, Murphy reported to General Wells. We can have the first wave in space within 2 hours. Make it 1 hour, Major. We don't know how much time we have. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, Captain Amy Foster was deep beneath the ice when the message arrived. The Europa Naval Station was completely hidden under the frozen ocean, and from space it looked like any other moon. All ships, prepare for surface breach, Foster announced to her fleet. We are going to show these aliens what the human navy really looks like. Massive machines began cutting through the ice above them. In less than an hour, holes big enough for warships would open in the surface, and Foster's fleet would emerge from their hiding place. Back on Earth, Harper watched, as reports came in from across the solar system. What the aliens had seen was just Earth's basic defense force. They had no idea that humanity had been building military bases throughout the entire system for 50 years. Admiral, we are getting responses from all stations, Brooks reported. Titan base is online with 200,000 troops. The Asteroid Belt Naval Command has 400 ships ready to launch. Even the mining stations are reporting that their defensive systems are active. Harper smiled for the first time since the attack. How long until we have full deployment? 12 hours for the first wave, 36 hours for complete activation. Titan. Colonel Kevin Price stood on the observation deck of his base looking out at the orange clouds of Saturn's largest moon. His soldiers had been living under those clouds for years, training in secret and waiting for this moment. Sir, the fleet is requesting permission to launch, his aide reported. Tell them they are cleared for immediate departure. And remind all pilots that this is not a drill. Price watched as the first ships lifted off from the hidden landing pads. They disappeared into Titan's thick atmosphere, heading for space and whatever battle was coming. In the asteroid belt, Admiral Nancy Wright was aboard her flagship, the EDS Constitution. Her fleet had been pretending to be mining ships for so long that some of the alien scouts had probably seen them and thought nothing of it. All ships, drop the mining equipment and activate military systems, Wright ordered. It's time to stop pretending. Across the belt, hundreds of ships that had looked like simple cargo vessels began changing. Fake mining equipment fell away, revealing weapons and armor. What had seemed like a small civilian fleet was actually one of humanity's most powerful naval forces. On Earth, Dr. Helen Torres was in her laboratory, studying the data from the alien ship. She was humanity's top expert on alien technology, even though until today no aliens had ever been seen. Admiral Harper, I have some preliminary findings, she said over the communication system. Go ahead, Doctor. The alien ship uses energy, weapons that are more powerful than ours, but their armor is not as advanced as it looks. Our weapons can hurt them if we use enough ships. But the most important thing is their communication system. Harper leaned forward. What about it? They are sending signals back to their fleet. Long-range signals. This was definitely a scouting mission. Harper felt a chill run down her spine. How long until their main fleet arrives? Based on the signal strength and direction, I would estimate 2 to 3 days. 2 days to prepare for an invasion. Harper turned to Brooks. Colonel, I want every ship, every soldier, every weapon system we have ready in 48 hours. No exceptions. Yes, ma'am. Should I contact the Civilian Defense Corps as well? Harper thought for a moment. The Civilian Defense Corps was made up of ordinary people who had volunteered to help defend their homes. They were not professional soldiers, but they were trained and armed. Yes. Activate the Civilian Corps as well. If these aliens want to fight, we will give them one they will never forget. Far out in space beyond Pluto, the monitoring stations began picking up new signals. War Commander Thexmal and his Third Fleet were on their way to Earth. His ships were powerful, and his soldiers were experienced fighters who had conquered many worlds. But Thexmal was confident that this would be an easy battle. War Prime Kethvar had reported that the humans were weak and had few ships. The Third Fleet would destroy them quickly and claim another world for the Empire. War Commander, we will reach the human system in 2 days, his navigator reported. Excellent. Begin preparing the troops for planetary assault. This conquest should take no more than a few hours. Thexmal did not know that humanity had been watching the galaxy for decades, preparing for exactly this kind of attack. He did not know about the millions of soldiers training on Mars or the fleets hidden throughout the solar system. Most importantly, he did not know that humans had learned the most important lesson of survival in space. Never put all your military strength in one place. As the alien fleet moved closer to Earth, humanity continued its preparations. On every world, every moon, every space station, people were getting ready for the fight of their lives. The aliens thought they were attacking a single planet with a small defense force. They were about to discover that they were actually attacking a civilization that had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Admiral Harper stood in her command center, watching the reports stream in from across the system. Millions of soldiers, thousands of ships and weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Let them come, she said quietly. We are ready. War Commander Thexmal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Fang, watching the star system grow larger on his screens. His Third Fleet consisted of 50 warships and 200,000 of the Empire's finest warriors. It was more than enough to destroy a primitive world like Earth. War Commander, we are approaching the outer edge of the human system, reported his navigation officer. Our scouts indicate minimal resistance, perhaps 500,000 soldiers total. On their homeworld, Thexmal's 4 eyes glowed with satisfaction. The humans would fall just like all the other species his empire had conquered. Begin deep scans of their defensive positions. I want to know where every human weapon is located. On the edge of the solar system, Captain Steve Johnson sat in the monitoring station called Watchtower. It was built inside a large asteroid, and from the outside it looked like nothing more than space rock. But inside, it was one of humanity's most advanced surveillance centers. Sir, I'm tracking 50 alien ships moving toward Earth, reported Lieutenant Sandra Williams. They're not trying to hide themselves at all. Johnson smiled grimly. That's because they think we're weak. Send the data to Admiral Harper immediately, then activate the Jupiter Defense Grid. The Jupiter Defense Grid was humanity's secret weapon. For 20 years, engineers had been placing automated defense platforms among Jupiter's many moons. From space, they looked like mining equipment or research stations. In reality, they were some of the most powerful weapons humanity had ever built. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Barnes was stationed on Europa when she received the activation order. She had been pretending to run a scientific research station for 3 years, but her real job was much more important. All units, this is Europa Control. Begin Phase 1. Activation immediately. Around Jupiter, 200 hidden platforms began, powering up their weapons. Each one was capable of destroying a ship as large as the alien flagship. Together they formed a defensive wall that the aliens could not possibly expect. On Mars, General Kevin Price watched his troops loading onto transport ships. The Red Planet's garrison was finally ready to reveal itself. 3 million soldiers and their equipment were about to join the battle. Sir, the transport fleet is ready for launch, reported Colonel Danny Walsh. All troops are armed and prepared for space combat. Price nodded. Launch immediately. And Danny, make sure the troops understand. This is not a training exercise. Today we find out if all our preparation was worth it. The transport ships lifted off from hidden bases across Mars. To the alien scouts watching from far away, it looked like a small evacuation. They had no idea they were seeing one of the largest military mobilizations in human history. Admiral Nancy Wright was aboard her flagship in the asteroid belt when she received new orders from Earth Command. Her fleet of 300 ships had been disguised as mining vessels for so long that some of her own crew had almost forgotten they were warships. All ships, drop civilian disguises and activate combat systems, Wright ordered. It's time to show the galaxy what the human navy really looks like. Across the belt, ships began transforming. Fake mining equipment fell away, revealing weapons and armor plating. Communication dishes that had seemed designed for civilian use suddenly showed their true purpose as military targeting systems. War Commander Thexmol received reports from his scouts as his fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Sir, we are detecting increased activity around the fourth planet. It appears the humans are evacuating some civilian populations. Good, Thexmol replied. Fear is making them run, continue toward their home world. But the War Commander's confidence began to waver when his sensors detected something unexpected near the giant planet Jupiter. What are those energy readings? He asked his science officer. Unknown, War Commander. There appear to be artificial structures among the planet's moons, but they do not match any known human technology. Dr. Helen Torres was in her laboratory on Earth, coordinating the defense network activation. She had spent her entire career studying theoretical alien technology, and now she was finally seeing the real thing. Admiral Harper, the alien fleet is following a predictable approach pattern, she reported. They're coming straight toward Earth, ignoring our outer defensive positions. Harper was impressed by the aliens' arrogance. They really think we're helpless. How long until they reach Jupiter? 6 hours, Admiral. Perfect. Helen, I want you to coordinate the Jupiter defense grid personally. Make sure they get a proper welcome. On Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, Colonel Marcus Thompson was preparing his troops for deployment. The Titan garrison had been living under the moon's thick orange atmosphere for years, completely hidden from any observers. Sir, we have 300,000 troops ready for immediate deployment, reported Major Lisa Bennett. The fleet is fueled and waiting for orders. Thompson looked out through the dome at Saturn's rings hanging in the sky above them. Major, today those rings are going to see the biggest space battle in human history. Make sure our people are ready. Captain Tony Mitchell was leading a squadron of stealth frigates near Neptune when he received his orders. His ships had been patrolling the outer system for months, watching for exactly this kind of alien approach. All ships, this is Mitchell. We are cleared to begin harassment attacks on the alien fleet. Remember, we want to make them angry, not destroy them yet. Mitchell's 50 ships were small and fast, designed to hit enemy vessels and disappear before they could be targeted. They would be humanity's first real strike against the invaders. As the alien fleet moved past Jupiter, Lieutenant Commander Barnes activated the first wave of defense platforms. Massive weapons that had been hidden for decades suddenly powered up and targeted the alien ships. Weapons locked on alien vessels, Barnes reported to Admiral Harper. Awaiting orders to fire. Harper watched the tactical display showing both fleets. The aliens were still moving confidently toward Earth, unaware that they were flying into the most heavily defended system in the galaxy. Not yet, Barnes. Let them get closer. I want them to see exactly what they're facing. War Commander Thexmol was beginning to feel uncertain as more and more human activity appeared on his sensors. How many ships do these humans have? He asked his tactical officer. Sir, we are detecting approximately 800 vessels throughout the system. This is much more than our scouts reported. Thexmol's confidence was shaking, but he had committed his fleet to this attack. 800 ships are still not enough to stop us. Continue the advance. But deep in his mind, Thexmol was starting to wonder if the humans were more dangerous than his empire had believed. The species he had conquered before had never shown this level of organization or preparation. On Earth, Admiral Harper was coordinating the defense from her command center. Reports were flowing in from every corner of the solar system as humanity's true military strength revealed itself. Admiral, we now have confirmed activation of all defensive positions, reported Colonel Brooks. Mars garrison is fully deployed. Jupiter defense grid is online. Asteroid belt fleet is ready for combat. We are detecting movement from hidden bases as far out as Neptune. Harper looked at the tactical display and smiled. What had started as a simple alien scouting mission was about to become the greatest shock in the history of interstellar warfare. "How many total ships do we have active?" she asked. Brooks checked his reports. 2,300 warships, Admiral, and that's not counting the defense platforms, civilian militia, or reserve fleets. Harper turned to face the main screen, which showed the alien fleet still approaching Earth. They looked so small compared to the forces humanity was assembling to meet them. "War Commander Thexmol," she said quietly to herself, "you have no idea what you just walked into." War Commander Thexmol felt his first real moment of fear as his fleet crossed into the inner solar system. What had started as confident reports from his scouts was now becoming a flood of confused and worried messages. "War Commander, we are now detecting over 1,500 human vessels," reported his tactical officer, his voice shaking slightly. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said they had maybe 50 ships total." Thexmol stared at the tactical display. Red dots representing human ships were appearing everywhere, from the asteroid belt to the outer planets. "Are you certain these readings are correct?" "Yes, sir. And sir, there's something else. We're picking up massive energy signatures from the planet Jupiter. It looks like they have weapons platforms hidden among the moons." Captain Tony Mitchell's stealth squadron struck first. His 50 frigates appeared from behind asteroids and attacked the alien fleet's rear guard. Blue energy beams lit up space as the human ships hit 3 alien vessels before disappearing back into the darkness. "Direct hits on 3 enemy ships," Mitchell reported to Admiral Harper. "Minor damage, but they definitely felt it. They're angry now." Harper smiled as she watched the tactical display from Earth. "Good work, Captain. Now let's show them what real anger looks like." Admiral Greg Foster had been waiting near Saturn for this moment. His Saturn Defense Corps consisted of 150 battleships, all hidden behind the planet's rings for the past 2 years. When the activation order came, they emerged from their hiding places like a pack of wolves. "All ships, this is Admiral Foster. We are now fully operational and ready for combat. Target the alien fleet's left flank and prepare for full engagement." War Commander Thexamol watched in horror as 150 massive human warships appeared from behind Saturn. Each ship was larger than anything in his fleet, and their weapons were already charging for battle. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his intelligence officer. "Your report said this species was primitive." "Sir, I don't understand it either. Our scouts were certain they only had basic planetary defenses." Major Kelly Roberts was stationed at the Solar Defense Network's main communication center on Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt. When she activated the network's full communication array, every human military installation in the solar system suddenly became visible to the aliens. "Network activation complete," Roberts reported. "All installations are now broadcasting on full power." For the first time, War Commander Thexmol could see the true scope of what he was facing. His communication officer began reading the signals flooding their sensors. "Sir, I'm detecting military installations on Mars, Europa, Titan, Ceres, and dozens of other locations. There are bases on planets, moons, asteroids, and space stations throughout this entire system." Thexmol felt his confidence crumbling. "How many total installations?" "Over 300 major military bases, sir. And that's just what we can detect with their communication systems active." Commander Alex Turner commanded the Pluto Defense Station, the most distant human military base in the solar system. His job was to watch for threats coming from outside the system and coordinate with the Kuiper Belt Patrol Fleet. "Admiral Harper, this is Pluto Base. We have 40 ships ready for deployment. Should we move to intercept the alien fleet?" Harper's voice came back strong and clear. "Negative, Commander. Hold position and coordinate with the outer system defenses. If any aliens try to run, I want them to know that we control space all the way to the edge of the system." Colonel Diana Phillips was aboard the lead ship of the Kuiper Belt Patrol Fleet. Her job was to patrol the very edge of human space, watching for threats from the dark between stars. Most people didn't even know her fleet existed. "Admiral, this is Colonel Phillips. Kuiper Belt Fleet is operational with 60 vessels. We are detecting the alien fleet's entry point and can cut off their retreat if necessary. On Jupiter's moon Europa, Lieutenant Commander Rachel Barnes was ready to activate the Jupiter defense grid. 200 automated weapon platforms had been hidden among Jupiter's moons for years, disguised as research stations and communication relays. Admiral Harper, Jupiter defense grid is fully charged and ready to fire. We have clear targeting solutions on all 50 alien ships. Harper looked at her tactical display. The alien fleet was now completely surrounded by human forces. Ships were converging from every direction, and the aliens were finally beginning to understand what they had walked into. Not yet, Barnes. I want them to see everything we have first. General Peter Clark was in charge of the Oort Cloud Early Warning Network, a system of monitoring stations that extended almost a light year from Earth. His network was humanity's first line of defense against threats from deep space. All stations report normal status, Clark announced to Admiral Harper. The alien fleet came from the Vega direction, and we tracked them for 3 months before they reached the inner system. War Commander Thexmal realized with growing terror that the humans had been watching his fleet for months. They had known he was coming and had used that time to prepare an overwhelming response. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet, reported his communication officer. Put it on the main screen. Admiral Harper's face appeared on the alien ship's display. She looked calm and confident, not at all like someone whose world was about to be conquered. War Commander Thexmal, I am Admiral Harper of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered our system without permission and attacked our ships. You now have one chance to surrender. Thexmal tried to maintain his dignity. Human, you are vastly outnumbered. My fleet will destroy your pathetic defenses and claim this system for the Empire. Harper smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. Commander, let me show you what you're really facing. The tactical display on the alien flagship suddenly filled with red dots. Human ships were everywhere, from Mercury to the edge of the solar system. The count kept climbing as more and more vessels revealed themselves. We currently have 2,400 warships targeting your fleet, Harper continued. We have defense platforms, orbital stations, and ground-based weapons on every major body in this system. And Commander, this is just our regular military. Thexmal's eyes widened as he realized the impossible truth. This is not possible. No species militarizes their entire star system. We do, Harper replied simply, because we learned a long time ago that in space, you can never be too prepared. Captain Julie Adams was commanding the Inner System Defense Fleet when she received orders to reveal her forces. Her 500 heavy cruisers had been patrolling near Earth, disguised as cargo vessels and civilian transports. All ships drop civilian disguises and activate full military systems, Adams ordered. Let's show these aliens what the Earth Defense Fleet really looks like. 500 ships that had appeared harmless suddenly transformed into heavily armed warships. Weapons ports opened, shields activated, and targeting systems locked onto the alien fleet. Admiral Scott Baker commanded the Outer System Patrol Fleet near Neptune. His 800 ships had been the first line of defense, but they had stayed hidden until now. Admiral Harper, Outer System Fleet is ready for full engagement. We have the alien fleet completely surrounded. War Commander Thexmal stared at the tactical display in shock. The human fleet now numbered over 3,000 ships, with more appearing every minute. His 50 vessels were outnumbered 60-1. This is impossible, he whispered. How did they build so many ships without anyone knowing? His intelligence officer was frantically checking their databases. Sir, our scouts only observed their home planet. They never checked the other worlds in this system. You mean there are humans living on other planets? Sir, it appears that humans have colonized their entire star system. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid has human settlements, and every settlement has military defenses. Thexmal felt his world crumbling around him. The easy conquest had become an impossible battle. His empire had never faced anything like this before. War Commander, the humans are demanding our surrender, reported his communication officer. Thexmal looked at the overwhelming force surrounding his fleet. For the first time in his military career, he was completely outmatched. War Commander Thexmal stood frozen on his bridge, staring at the tactical display that showed his doom. 3,000 human warships surrounded his fleet of 50 vessels. The easy conquest he had planned was now looking like the worst military disaster in his empire's history. "Sir, the humans are giving us 10 minutes to respond to their surrender demand," reported his communication officer, his voice barely a whisper. Thexmul wanted to fight, but he was not stupid. His warriors were brave, but bravery could not overcome impossible odds. Still, he had to try to save some dignity for his empire. "Open a channel to the human admiral." Admiral Harper's face appeared on the screen again. She looked patient, like someone who had all the time in the world. "Have you made your decision, War Commander?" "Admiral Harper, my empire has conquered 47 worlds. We have never retreated from any battle, but I must ask, how is this possible? Our scouts reported that your species was weak and had few ships." Harper's expression softened slightly. "Your scouts only looked at Earth, Commander. They saw our planetary defense forces and thought that was all we had. They never bothered to check the rest of our solar system." Captain Julie Adams was watching the conversation from her flagship in the Inter-System Defense Fleet. Her 500 heavy cruisers were ready to attack, but she hoped it would not be necessary. The alien commander seemed to be learning the truth about humanity. "All ships, maintain ready status but do not target the alien vessels unless they fire first," Adams ordered her fleet. On Mars, General Kevin Price was coordinating the final deployment of his forces. His 3 million troops were now fully loaded on transport ships ready to join the space battle if needed, but like Adams, he hoped the aliens would be smart enough to surrender. "Sir, should we launch the transports?" asked Colonel Danny Walsh. "Not yet. Let's see if their commander is intelligent enough to understand what he's facing." Admiral Scott Baker commanded the outer system fleet near Neptune, and his 800 ships formed the outer ring of the human formation. He was watching his sensors carefully, making sure no alien ships tried to escape. "Admiral Harper, this is Baker. We have detected no movement from the alien fleet. They appear to be holding position while their commander decides what to do." Harper nodded as she listened to the report. She wanted to give the aliens every chance to surrender peacefully. Despite their attack on the Defender, she hoped this could end without more bloodshed. Commander Luke Davis was aboard one of the asteroid defense stations when he received new orders from Earth Command. His job was to coordinate the final surprise that would show the aliens just how completely outmatched they were. "All stations, this is Davis. Begin activation of the reserve fleet. It's time to show them everything." Throughout the solar system, hidden shipyards began opening their doors. Ships that had been held in strategic reserve for decades started moving toward the battle zone. These were not the regular patrol vessels or defense ships the aliens had already seen. These were humanity's newest and most powerful warships. War Commander Thexmul watched in growing despair as even more human ships appeared on his sensors. "How many ships do they have?" he asked his tactical officer. "Sir, the count is now over 4,000 vessels, and sir, these new ships are much larger than the others. Some of them are bigger than our flagship." Thexmul felt his heart sinking. 4,000 ships. His entire empire's navy only had about 3,000 vessels, and they were spread across dozens of star systems. The humans had managed to build a fleet larger than his empire's entire military, and they had kept it secret in one star system. General Martha Collins was in charge of humanity's reserve fleets, and she had been waiting 20 years for this moment. Her ships were the most advanced humanity had ever built, equipped with weapons and shields that even she was not sure the aliens could understand. "All reserve fleets, this is General Collins. You are cleared for final approach. Show these aliens what human engineering can really do." The reserve fleet consisted of 500 of humanity's most powerful warships. Each one was the size of a small city and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. They had been built in secret over the past 2 decades, using technology that pushed the limits of human science. Admiral Harper watched as the reserve fleet joined the formation around the alien ships. The tactical display now showed over 4,000 human vessels, and she could see the alien commander's face on her screen. He looked like someone who had just realized he was drowning. "War Commander, you asked how this was possible," Harper said calmly. "The answer is simple. 50 years ago, humanity made a decision. We decided that if we ever met hostile aliens, we would be ready for them. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Barnes was still monitoring the Jupiter defense grid when she received orders to power up all weapons to full strength. The 200 automated platforms around Jupiter began charging their main guns, creating energy readings that could be detected throughout the solar system. Jupiter defense grid at maximum power, Barnes reported. All platforms locked on, alien targets. War Commander Thexmal could see the energy readings from the Jupiter platforms on his sensors. Each platform had enough power to destroy one of his ships with a single shot. There were 200 of them. Sir, we're also detecting similar platforms around Saturn, Mars, and Earth, his science officer reported. Total count is over 800 automated defense platforms. 800, Thexmal repeated numbly. They have 800 weapons platforms plus 4,000 ships. But Admiral Harper was not finished yet. She had one more surprise for the alien commander. War Commander, what you see here is just our regular military forces. We also have civilian defense corps on every world, moon, and space station in this system. Would you like to know how many civilians have volunteered to help defend their homes? Thexmal did not want to know, but he could not stop himself from asking. How many? 20 million trained civilian militia members, Commander. Every human settlement has its own defense force. Even our smallest mining stations have weapons and trained fighters. The alien commander sat down heavily in his command chair. 20 million. His entire invasion force was 200,000. Warriors and the humans had 20 million civilians ready to fight, plus their regular military. This is madness, he whispered. No species militarizes their entire civilization like this. Harper's expression became serious. Commander, humanity learned something important when we first went into space. Out here, among the stars, there is no one to protect you except yourself. So we made sure we could protect ourselves. Captain Tony Mitchell was still commanding his stealth squadron when he received final orders from Admiral Harper. His job was to escort the alien fleet out of the solar system if they chose to surrender. Mitchell here, Admiral. My ships are ready to provide safe passage for the alien fleet if they decide to leave peacefully. Harper nodded. Despite everything that had happened, she wanted to give the aliens a chance to leave with their lives. War was sometimes necessary, but it should never be the first choice. War Commander Thexmal, I am prepared to let you and your fleet leave our system unharmed, but you must understand that if your empire returns, we will be ready for them. And next time we will not offer surrender terms. Thexmal looked around his bridge at his officers. They were all staring at him, waiting for his decision. He thought about his empire's pride, about the shame of retreating from primitives. Then he thought about the 4,000 human warships surrounding his fleet. Admiral Harper, I accept your terms. My fleet will leave your system immediately and will not return. Harper felt relief wash over her. Very good, Commander. Captain Mitchell will escort you to the edge of our space. Have a safe journey. As the alien fleet began moving away from Earth, escorted by human ships, Admiral Harper turned to Colonel Brooks. Colonel, begin standing down our forces to normal alert levels, but keep the monitoring stations active. I have a feeling we have not heard the last from this empire. War Commander Thexmal sat in his command chair as his fleet left the human solar system. He would have to report to his superiors that humanity was not the primitive species they had believed. They were possibly the most heavily armed civilization his empire had ever encountered. As Earth grew smaller behind them, Thexmal made a decision. When he reached the empire's border, he would recommend that humanity be left alone. Some species were just too dangerous to fight. Behind them, the human fleet began returning to their hidden bases throughout the solar system. But they remained, ready, watching the stars for the next threat that might come from the darkness between worlds. Admiral Harper stood in her command center, looking at the tactical display as the alien ships disappeared into deep space. Humanity had won this battle without firing a shot, but she knew it was just the beginning. Colonel Brooks sent a message to all stations. Well done, everyone. Today we showed the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. The galaxy was vast and full of unknowns. But whatever came next, humanity would be ready.